can listen online at nervemedia.org.uk. Today we shall be speaking to a special guest, NUS President Aaron Porter, who joins us live in the studio.
Hello.
Hello. You can also have your voice. Our voice is your voice, so you can tweet in the show at Nerve Radio, and you can also text us on 07766 404142. Start your message with Nerve Radio, all one word. It'll come straight to us to the studio. So you can also have your mention as well. I'm also joined here by Steve Johns.
Hi.
How you doing? Good. And right, let's get to it. All right, so welcome to Nerve Studios.
Hello. It's nice to be here. I've chosen, not that your listeners will know, it's a lovely, beautiful day to be down in Bournemouth. So I'm hoping to try and steal a march down to the coast before I leave. I've come all of this way, so it'd be, I think it'd be wrong of me to not try and get to the coast before I leave.
Yeah,
so.
you enjoying the sunshine?
Yeah, no, it's amazing how different a university campus can look on a bright sunny day, and I think kind of university recruiting people, desperately wish that days like this are the weather you get on an open day. And certainly for me, it's much nicer to see a campus when it's in beautiful sunlight rather than kind of horrible rain. But no, great to be here.
I think it changes the attitude of how we study. It's quite nice. It's really nice. Well, I've been following you on Twitter, and I know that you were tweeting the other day about Casino Royale. You were enjoying that, weren't you?
I did. I watched that over the weekend. I was disappointed it wasn't the 60s version with David Niven, which is actually a much better version of the original Ian Fleming Bond novel. That said, I do think Daniel Craig's a good Bond, and it's a good film, particularly if you like gambling. And you can follow the games that are being played. But no, it's a good film.
There's some good films like Moon River. Oh no,
Moon River. Is that the next Bond? I'll be watching out for that one. Moonraker though was the very first Bond film I saw. I had nightmares about Jaws. I was about 7. But
okay. Well, for those who are listening who don't know you are. Explain your job and what you've briefly done over the past year. Yeah,
sure. So, in case you missed it at the start, I'm Aaron Porter. I'm president of the National Union of Students. So NUS represents students in further and higher education across the UK, and there are about 650 students' unions in FE colleges, sixth forms and universities that are members of NUS. And it's my role to kind of represent the views of students to the general public, to universities and colleges, to government, to opposition, and out in the media. Normally the task of the NUS president is to just try and get some coverage of their issues. I suspect we've been quite successful at getting our issues out there this year, but it has generated some pretty intense debates. I'm sure we'll kind of come on to that shortly, but at least I don't have the problem which some previous NUS presidents have had, which is they don't know who I am and what I've done. I've had less of that problem, and I think the good thing is the debate's moved on to the issues, which is exactly where the debate should be.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's start off then. When you were elected in 2010, what aim or goal, shall we say, was originally set out? Or perhaps more specifically, what were you going to change previous to the position that was before you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really concentrated on when and indeed my motivation to run for NUS president, was to make sure that NUS engaged fully and sought to push the government as far as it could do, whoever the government was going to be, because I got elected before the general election, was to push them on the issue of university funding specifically. That was what I cared about most, and that's what has ended up dominating my year. The final outcome that we got, i.e. a fee cap of up to £9,000, was not what we wanted. It was actually a million miles away from what we wanted. But I think we secured some concessions along the way. There is a better deal for part-time students. There is now a threshold up at £21,000, and the mechanism of repayment is more progressive than the current system, even though the overall package is a really bad one for students. So there are some sheds of, there's some rays of dim light in amongst some pretty dark gloom. But what has transformed is the profile of students and their issues, which has gone from being a long way down the agenda to being at the very top of the agenda. And I think NUS has played a considerable role in making sure that students now are given a great deal more attention than they ever were before.
That's great. So I'll throw over to Steve now, talking about Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, this week, there's UCU strikes tomorrow, and then you've got the big march on Saturday about, public spending cuts. So, what exactly is taking place on Saturday, and what is your involvement on Saturday exactly?
Yeah, I mean, the TUC national demonstration on Saturday is a response to the government's kind of austerity measures, the deep public spending cuts, and it's a challenge to say to the government, you are saying that we've got to reduce the deficit in 4 years. Actually, what trade unionists are saying, what others in the public sector are saying, and I would agree with them as president of NUS, which is to say there are other ways of doing this. You don't have to reduce the deficit in 4 years. Why not do it in 6, 8, 10 years? Because what I think this government have failed to acknowledge is if you do reduce the deficit in 4 years, there are lots of unintended consequences along the way. There are lots of people that lose their job. There are lots of people that can't stay in their homes. There are lots of people who suffer at unemployment because jobs aren't created. And that transforms people's lives. And I think that the government haven't paid enough attention to that. So we will see, I suspect, several 100,000 people on the streets of London challenging the government's austerity measures and calling for an alternative. I'm not saying that the deficit doesn't need to be reduced, but I don't think it needs to be reduced in 4 years. I hope there'll be tens of thousands of students, and we've been working with the TUC to help mobilise for that and encourage students' unions to get their students along.
Okay, and now you've also said you're not making a speech as such on the Saturday. Now, there'll be thousands of students that will want to hear from you, so why aren't you making a speech on Saturday?
Well, if a TUC wants to invite me to speak, I mean, it's not my march, and the TUC are obviously responsible for who's invited to speak. The General Secretary of the Trade Union Congress, Brendan Barber, will speak. Ed Miliband, the leader of the Labour Party, will speak. I gather there's some controversy about which politicians are speaking. For me, it's not about who speaks, it's about the issues that are raised, and I think it's right that NUS supports it, both in terms of word and deed, and that's what I'm really pleased about.
Okay, and now you said in a talk in Bournemouth just a few hours ago that you think 50,000 emails to Ms Cable would have been more effective, perhaps, than the demo. So why are you supporting the strike and the march on Saturday if you don't think it's that effective?
I said, I think I should clarify what I said. I mean, I said that, you could argue that 50,000 people on the street didn't make much difference to the final outcome on tuition fees, and, in many respects that's right. And if you look at other recent successful campaigns, like the government's U-turn on school sports, on the Forestry Commission sell-off, those campaigns were successful because actually they were largely about getting emails into the inboxes of politicians, and perhaps if NUS had got 50,000 emails into Vince Cable's inbox, that might have got a different result. We won't actually ever know in truth, and we can just speculate. But I do think that effective campaigning organisations need to think about what effective campaign tactics are in the 21st century. For me, simple street protest on its own isn't going to work in isolation. It needs to be done alongside successful lobbying, credible alternatives, research, evidence, and I think using technology more and more to campaign. That's where the successful campaigning organisations will be over the next few years.
Okay, interesting thoughts there. Right, we're going to go over to a song, and then when we come back, we're going to be talking about more about the UC strikes. So we'll just see you in a sec.